Darkness rarely enters an empath's life all at once. It happens slowly, quietly, one disappointment at a time, one betrayal at a time, one moment of emotional exhaustion after another. Most clear-throat people believe empaths will always stay because they are patient, forgiving, understanding, and emotionally available, even when nobody gives the same energy back to them. That is why losing an empath often comes as a shock, not because they suddenly changed, but because nobody noticed how long they were silently suffering before they finally disappeared. The terrifying truth about an empath is not their anger. It is the day they become emotionally silent. Because when an empath stops explaining their pain, stops fighting for connection, and stops trying to fix the relationship, the emotional bond is usually already dead inside them. And unlike temporary distance or emotional reactions, this kind of detachment is often permanent. Psychology studies on emotional burnout show that highly empathetic people absorb stress and emotional tension far deeper than most others, which means repeated emotional pain affects them in ways many people fail to understand until it is too late. Empaths are known for giving endless chances. They often stay loyal to people who continuously hurt them, because they focus more on someone's hidden pain than on the damage being done to themselves. This is one reason emotionally manipulative people are naturally drawn toward empaths. They know the empath will continue understanding, forgiving, and sacrificing long after others would walk away. But very few people realize there is a hidden breaking point inside every empath. A moment where their emotional exhaustion becomes stronger than their attachment. And once that line is crossed, the empath no longer argues, begs, chases, or explains. They simply disappear emotionally without warning. In this video, you will discover the real reason empaths quietly walk away forever. The dangerous behaviors that slowly destroy their emotional connection. Why their silence is more serious than anger, and the painful regret many people feel after losing someone who genuinely cared about them. You will also learn how betrayal permanently changes an empath's personality, why emotional burnout can turn the kindest people emotionally distant, and the hidden psychological patterns that most people completely miss until the relationship is already over. Some of these truths are uncomfortable because they reveal how easily good-hearted people are emotionally destroyed by repeated neglect, manipulation, and disrespect. And the most disturbing part is that many empaths never openly show the moment they emotionally give up. They continue smiling, continue helping, continue acting normal, while silently disconnecting inside. That is why this video becomes more powerful as it goes on, because the final stages of an empath's emotional detachment are often misunderstood by almost everyone around them. Stay until the end, because one small behavior discussed later in this video is often the final warning sign before an empath disappears forever, and most people never recognize it until the silence becomes permanent. Welcome to our channel where we explore the hidden psychology of human behavior, emotional pain, relationships, and the truths people rarely talk about. Subscribe now and join us for more deep psychological stories and emotional insights that stay with you long after the video ends. Empaths almost never leave when the pain first begins. That is one of the biggest reasons people misunderstand them. Most individuals walk away after clear disrespect, dishonesty, or emotional distance. But empaths operate differently because they experience people on a much deeper emotional level. They do not just listen to words. They study pain hidden behind behavior. They notice sadness behind anger, fear behind manipulation, and insecurity behind coldness. This is why empaths often stay connected to people long after the relationship becomes emotionally unhealthy. While others focus on how someone acts, the empath focuses on why they act that way, and sometimes that becomes their greatest emotional weakness. They keep searching for the wounded version of a person instead of accepting the harmful reality standing in front of them. Even after repeated disappointment, the empath still hopes the kindness they continue giving will eventually heal the situation. They believe patience can change people. They believe understanding can repair emotional damage. They believe love can soften toxic behavior. That belief keeps them emotionally trapped far longer than most people realize. Deep down, many empaths are not attached to who someone truly is in the present moment. They are attached to the potential of who that person could become. That is why they continue holding on while slowly breaking inside. They remember the small moments of care, the rare moments of vulnerability, The brief apologies, the temporary changes, and every small sign of improvement convinces them to keep trying again. Toxic people often recognize this pattern quickly. They realize the empath sees the best in them even when they do not deserve it. They realize the empath keeps forgiving behavior that others would never tolerate. That emotional loyalty becomes easy to exploit. The empath begins carrying the emotional weight of the entire relationship alone without fully noticing it at first. They become the listener, the fixer, the emotional support system, and the peacekeeper all at the same time. And while doing this, they slowly stop paying attention to their own emotional exhaustion. One of the saddest truths about empaths is that they usually blame themselves before blaming others. When communication becomes cold, they wonder if they asked for too much. When someone becomes distant, they question whether they were too emotional. When conflict appears, they search inside themselves first instead of immediately accusing the other person. This is why empaths spend so much time trying to repair relationships that are already emotionally collapsing. Their first instinct is not escape. Their first instinct is self-correction. They replay conversations in their mind. They overanalyze tone changes. They think about what they could have said differently. They carry emotional responsibility for problems they did not create. And because they naturally fear hurting people, they become willing to tolerate incredible emotional damage just to keep peace alive. Many empaths secretly believe that if they love hard enough, stay patient enough, and understand deeply enough, eventually the relationship will return to what it once was. But repeated emotional pain changes the human mind over time. Even the softest heart begins to harden when it constantly feels emotionally unsafe. Most people never notice this change happening inside an empath because empaths rarely announce their suffering out loud. They continue showing up, continue helping, continue giving emotional energy, even while quietly draining themselves empty. The outside still looks calm while the inside slowly collapses. That is why people are often shocked when an empath finally walks away. They mistake silence for stability. They mistake patience for endless tolerance. They mistake forgiveness for weakness. But empaths do not leave at the first red flag. They leave after surviving thousands of them. Every broken promise adds another emotional scar. Every ignored feeling creates another layer of exhaustion. Every moment of disrespect slowly chips away at the emotional connection they once fought so hard to protect. What finally destroys an empath is usually not one dramatic betrayal. It is repetition, repeated disappointment, repeated neglect, repeated emotional abandonment. The breaking point comes when the empath realizes their emotional effort is no longer valued by the other person. This realization hurts empaths more deeply than direct conflict because empaths invest emotionally with complete sincerity. When they care fully. They do not give partial loyalty. They do not offer half-hearted support. Their love often comes with emotional sacrifice, patience, and deep understanding. That is why emotional betrayal cuts them differently. An empath can survive arguments. They can survive flaws. They can survive difficult periods in relationships. But surviving emotional invisibility is much harder. When their feelings are repeatedly dismissed, ignored, mocked, or minimized, something inside them begins shutting down slowly. Many toxic dynamics follow the same pattern. At first, the empath gives endless understanding while the other person takes comfort in that emotional support. Over time, appreciation disappears. The empath's kindness becomes expected instead of valued. Their emotional availability becomes a resource others consume without respect. They begin giving more while receiving less. And because empaths naturally focus on helping others, they often ignore their own emotional starvation until the damage becomes severe. One of the fastest ways to emotionally destroy an empath is making them feel emotionally unsafe. Safety is everything to emotionally sensitive people. When they constantly feel criticized, ignored, manipulated, or emotionally unstable around someone, their nervous system slowly enters survival mode. They become anxious about communication. They overthink small changes in behavior. They begin feeling emotionally tense, even during peaceful moments, because their mind no longer trusts the emotional environment. This is why repeated emotional inconsistency deeply affects empaths. Hot and cold behavior confuses them emotionally. Affection followed by distance creates emotional instability inside them. Lies damage them even more because trust is extremely sacred to empathetic personalities. Once trust breaks repeatedly, the empath starts questioning the entire emotional foundation of the relationship. And while they may continue staying physically present, emotionally, they begin fading little by little. Another painful reality is that many people unknowingly use the empath's kindness against them. They expect endless patience without giving accountability in return. They rely on the empath's forgiving nature to escape consequences. They know the empath will continue trying to understand their behavior instead of walking away immediately. Over time, this creates emotional imbalance. The empath becomes emotionally overworked while the other person becomes emotionally comfortable. The relationship slowly transforms into emotional survival for one person and emotional convenience for the other. Ignoring an empath's feelings repeatedly creates a kind of silent damage that builds over time. Empaths do not always need perfection. They simply need emotional acknowledgement. They need to feel heard, respected, and emotionally safe enough to express vulnerability without punishment. But when someone constantly dismisses their emotions, changes the subject, avoids accountability, or treats their pain like an inconvenience, the empath slowly begins disconnecting internally. The dangerous part is that this emotional withdrawal often happens quietly. The empath stops sharing certain feelings first. Then they stop asking for reassurance. Then they stop expecting understanding at all. Little by little, emotional hope disappears. And once hope disappears, emotional attachment soon follows. Many people mistake the silence for maturity or calmness. In reality, the empath may already be emotionally grieving the relationship while still physically present inside it. They already cried privately, already replayed painful memories alone at night, already tried explaining themselves multiple times before finally giving up. This is why the final stage of an empath's detachment feels so cold to others. By the time the empath emotionally leaves, they are usually exhausted beyond repair. The empath breaks the moment they realize they are fighting for someone who stopped caring long ago. That realization changes everything because it destroys the emotional purpose behind their loyalty. Empaths can tolerate pain when they believe love still exists underneath it. They can survive difficult situations when they believe emotional growth is still possible. But the second they realize their care no longer matters to the other person, their emotional energy begins collapsing rapidly. They start recognizing painful patterns they previously ignored. They see how often they sacrifice their peace for temporary connection. They notice how their emotional needs were always placed last. They realize they spent more time understanding others than being understood themselves.